Hey guys, welcome to the garage on a dark and stormy night as a neighbor has a party in the backyard. I hope they have a tent. So why am I out here? Well, because of this. I am about to start yet another project. I know how insane that sounds, hear me out. This set also belongs to the collector who has the other two RCAs I've been doing, the dueling RCAs. Now, it may say Crosley on the front. It's an RCA inside. So while I have RCA on the brain, I want to get through all these RCAs. And actually, there's a fourth RCA that's from belongs to a different collector, a 721. This is a clone of an RCA 630TS, which was their flagship set, launched in 1946, that they made quite a few of. It's very well performing. One of the best performing early TVs made, period. Fantastic bandwidth. RCA invested a lot of money. They wanted TV to work. And this was their kind of no expenses spared, let's show the public what TV is capable of set. So it has 30 tubes in it. It consumes a lot of watts, but it has a full 4.5 megahertz bandwidth. Very stable picture, very well engineered, but also very heavy, expensive, complicated. Now as I'm looking at this, I'm realizing something. So inside it's an RCA chassis, but Crosley either made or had made this cabinet. The knobs are not all correct. These are probably the correct Crosley knobs. These are not, these are Philco. In fact, these are the knobs I was searching for the Philco I've been working on, which also belongs to the same collector. We did test this picture tube way back when, but that's all I've done with it. I'm not sure if I have the back. I'll have to hunt around in here and review the video of when I first got these sets, but it's not on there now. So, there she is. Looks deceptive. This thing is really heavy. The whole set probably weighs 100 pounds. Just the chassis, 80 or so. There is a massive power transformer. It goes from here down to about there. Without the back, we can see the power consumption. It's hefty. It has dual 5U4 rectifiers. So one of the dueling RCAs I've been working on, those are a refinement of this. Those use 24 tubes with a single 5U4 rectifier and the power resistor, bleeder resistors along here. This is dual 5U4s, and the bleeder resistors are in this assembly. And it gets toasty. Also, it's cool, it has an electromagnetic ion trap magnet. It's kind of an odd thing. I restored one of these a few years back, and I was really happy with the results. This will be my second foray into this chassis. So, one thing you really need to know about this and a few of the other early RCAs, the picture tube is really not supported by much of anything. It is not attached to the chassis. So if you were to loosen up these chassis bolts, disconnect CRT base and slide this out, the picture tube would just come slamming down. This is actually shipped without the picture tube installed. And the way that goes is they install from the front. This is how the RCA version works. The front comes off. The top comes off. And there's a couple screws back here. You take off, the top comes off. Then I think there's a thumb screw on either side and a screw on the bottom. And the front comes out, the picture tube comes out the front. We need to do all that before I pull the chassis. Alright, got the two little screws out. This should come off. Just a piece of wood and tube chart in here. They had their own tube chart printed up. It says Crosley. Nice touch. Alright, so what do we got in here? So we want to slide the CRT. There's the ion trap magnets, two of them, focus coil yoke, high voltage connectors already loose, and Does that front attach? There's a little gizmo here. This has a cushion, a little screw you can loosen up. They slide back and forth. I know the lighting's terrible, but you just gotta deal with it. Here's a couple screws. There's a speaker. Alright, I gotta get some more light. It's a little different from the RCAs. So the RCA is the piece of glass that's in front, and there's a bezel that comes apart. This is a little different. This piece should come off. Alright, there's a bit more light. Super clean inside, just the usual cadmium corrosion. I'm thinking I take those two screws out. There's one up there, one over there, and then maybe something underneath. Yep, two screws up top, small one down below coming up through the bottom, and tilts out and then lifts up. That is one massive slab between the glass and the wood. That's probably 15 pounds right there. And oh, is that thing filthy. Probably never been removed since the set was made, but it's been rotated. I mean, obviously the screen, you can see the marks there. It used to be like that. What an odd thing. So now, yeah, this is just the weight of the glass pushing. Now there is nothing holding this in place at all right now. It's just going to come straight out. That's got to be the original picture tube. It's an RCA, and it was in there so firmly. I'm sure it's been there since it was made. Here's a look at the bottom. Got to do something about the feet. This one is just down to a screw stump, and the others aren't much better. We need to take out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bolts. They're all there, which is cool. It probably means it's never been serviced. Cygnus is good too. That's a service access panel. So I got to pull the knobs, disconnect the speaker, take out those 5 bolts, and we'll get it inside and up on the workbench. Couple quick corrections. You don't have to take a screw in the bottom out, just the 2 on the top, and it tilts and lifts out. There's a slot down here. And the speaker is part of the chassis. It comes with it, which is good because it's a field coil speaker and part of the power supply. Now, I already know what condition the chassis is in. I'm going to leave you in suspenders. All right, you guys ready for the big reveal? This is what you dream about. This is what you want to find. It is 100% original. That's really unusual for something this old, this early. It's especially unusual when you consider how expensive these were and how new and exciting a prized possession they were. Cost more than a car. You would think that somebody would have serviced it. Yeah, sure, it's well made, high quality. After a few years, you're going to need to do some servicing. I'm very curious to see if all the tubes are original or not. It's very unusual with the several hundred vintage sets from the 40s I've worked on or checked out to not see at least some of the paper caps having been replaced. Typically these sets were used for at least 5 years. It probably took you at least 5 years to pay the thing off. And then they would keep using it even though the screen was small and it was obsolete because it was so expensive. But this is awesome. So it's similar to the other RCAs I've been working on recently, but this is the grandfather. This is the original. So whereas the others had 1 cap down here, this has 2. It has a more, or a different bleeder network, and there are more resistors in here than the one with a strip on the back. Component layout's a bit different. Some of these caps are a real pain in the butt to get at, like the ones down in here. I'm a little foggy. It's been a few years since I worked on one of these. But it's also the very first set I ever got was an RCA 630TS with this chassis, so it has a special place in my heart, I guess you could say. Now there is one thing that concerns me, and I suspect it may be why it was taken out of service, and that is there is a screw missing here. All the chassis bolts were there, but so this could have been left in the set, but this you can open up without taking the set out. What's in here are those bleeder resistors, and it's not at all unusual for them to go open, and when they go open, it's game over. The set will not work anymore. Let's flip her down and take a gander at the top, which is filthy. It's got a healthy layer of dust on it. Just that power transformer, I laugh. It looks like what you'd see if it was a 25 hertz set where they had to use extra big power transformers, but no, this is just how damn big they were because they use so much power. That's crazy. Power cord snaking all around through here. Might be the original cord. I'm pretty sure it's not the original plug. But it is old, UL listed. Check out how that's weirdly folded over on the sides. Oh, it's a GE. Oh, man, somebody mixed a GE with an RCA. So here's how it goes from the front. Nice little 4-inch round speaker there, a field coil speaker. Be very careful with that. It's a bit hard to replace one of those. So the other sets we've been working on, a little bit of different configuration up front, where they take this transformer and rotate it from being horizontal to vertical, and move this section out, move some of these tubes, to kind of spread things out a little bit. Another big difference, evolution, is this, I don't think has a single dual triode tube, whereas the somewhat later sets, well, the next year, the 47 sets, use 1 or 2 12AU7s, which are dual triodes, whereas this has a 6J5 in it and a 6SK7, 6SH7, the ancient tubes you'd find in radios from the 40s. Single triodes, in other words. So there are no dual function tubes. There might be 1 or 2 6SN7s, but that's it. The rest are all single active element tubes. So what do we want to do? Well, visually, it looks fine. It's all here. I'm going to brush off some of the dust bunnies a little bit. Would have done it outside of it when it had been raining so badly. Now we're going to try a slow power up. Let's pop a few of these tubes out. So, RCA Victor, RCA Victor, RCA Victor, RCA, RCA, RCA Victor, RCA, 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 RCA. Wow. Wow, wow. I've seen sets with all RCA tubes, but these are all RCA Victor, meaning this is what it came with, because after a while, shortly after this came out, they dropped the Victor, and it was just RCA, and the logo changed a little bit. The replacement tubes, also the color might be red or yellow, which would indicate it was a replacement tube, but, let's check a few more of these. I'm skeptical that all of these are the original tube. Dang. 6K6 RCA Victor. Pretty sure both these rectifiers are because they're the early Coke bottle style. Sylvania. I think the other one's an RCA though. Okay, so maybe at least one tube got replaced. Still rather remarkable. There's clips around the base on these tubes. That's why on some of these tubes are really hard hard to get out. You gotta push down when you're pulling up. Oh, it's a National Union. Okay, so both 5U4s have been replaced. But from what I can see, yeah, they're 28 tubes might all be RCAs. Alright, so what are we going to do? Actually, I should have left these out. I regret doing that. We're going to take these back out, and we're going to power this up. And we're going to check that all the tubes light up. So there'll be no B+, no high voltage, just parallel filaments, light up all the tubes. I'm going to clean some of them off so I can check to see that they're glowing. Brush off some of this dust and dirt. If that goes well, we'll proceed to putting the rectifiers back in and trying to reform the cap, slowly bring it up. Hopefully, ideally, by the time the night is over, before the night is over, we'll have a glow on the CRT. And then part of some early tag that was on this rubber band, and the string fell apart. Awesome. Well, maybe before we power it up, we should do something about this power cord. I didn't realize it was that far gone. Yeah, that's got to get removed and replaced. So I guess I got to take the cover of the high voltage box off. It's just as well. I can replace this, but for right here, right now, I'm going to undo these screws, take this cover off, and I can plug a cheater cord right in here. It'll take a little bit of work to replace that properly, and I'm anxious to see what this set can do. And heck, we want to see what's going on inside here anyway, so we can use our old fluorescent light bulb trick. So it's just as well we open this guy up. Also, I need to be careful of this electromagnetic ion trap when I power this up. So, you ever been around vintage TVs? They're old enough to have ion trap magnets. You're used to seeing permanent magnets like this. But these super early sets, RCA in particular, used electromagnets, not permanent magnets. Why? I'm not entirely sure. I don't think you can adjust the current on it. I didn't quite trust the properties of permanent magnets. Or maybe they just couldn't source them. This TV was so new. So this comes out, kind of snaps into the outer piece. Put a phenolic on here, right above the plate cap on the 6 BG6. I guess I didn't want any chance of that arcing to this, which will be grounded. Man, everything is so heavy. This is probably 4 or 5 pounds, just that cover. In other words, the steel that this thing is made out of is heavier gauge than later sets. Again, flagship set, gotta work. Let's go all out. Then I started using thinner metal, fewer tubes, etc. Yeah, it looks alright. Wow. Usually these have some corrosion or something. Dang, those look like they're gold plated. Check that out. I don't think they are, but nice. Used to seeing those kind of green or grungy looking, but geez. Pretty. Well, so most all the information on the back of this set is gone, but we do have the serial number. So it's serial number 6837. That's pretty darn low. I don't know how many of these were made, but something to keep in mind about early TVs is they didn't make many. Yeah, you see a lot of them on my channel. You see a lot of them with other collectors on Facebook and various groups. But the reality is they didn't make many of these sets. It's just a lot of them survived, probably because they were so dang expensive. Families hung on to them. But man, the TV production in 46, 47, a couple 100,000 total, maybe, across all makes and models. How many of this particular model do they make? I don't know. 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. Crosley was fairly well known, but it wasn't nowhere near as big a deal as RCA. Okay, are you ready? Am I ready? I think I'm ready. So we want to watch for filaments glowing and the current draw. We'll go to a lower range here, and here we go. Nothing. Cool. Could just be the set's turned off. There's power. There we go. It's turned on now. There we go. Cool. You can see it, but as soon as I turned it on, the needle slammed over and then came back down. We're settling in at 3/4 of an amp or so, which seems like a heck of a lot of power for just 2 filaments, but there's a lot of tubes in this. Filaments out, CRT's out, so we have 27 tubes. Well, in the high voltage rectifier doesn't really count because the filament doesn't get powered by the power transformer, so 26 tubes. Before we try to do a full power up, though, let's take a closer look at some of these tubes. And I want to clean them up too, because this is a high voltage supply, horizontal deflection circuitry. It's got to work or we're never doing anything on a CRT. RCA Victor, 43rd week in 1947. That is pretty. There's also something in here that has me concerned. It's very often bad, which is this power resistor. You watch my series on Beginner's Guide to television restoration. We're working on an Admiral 30A1 chassis, same deal. So I say those early first generation Admirals are based on this design. They simplified a few things, but there's an awful lot in common. Same flyback, same power resistor in there, and then the Admirals are always open, and the RCA is usually open too, and I can see green corrosion on it. However, the set will power up. We can't get high voltage, we can't get a raster, even if that's open, but the horizontal linearity will be crap. I'm far more concerned about this. However, I've dealt with this recently, so I have some parts on hand, and we can deal with that. No, this I don't think is original. This is 835, so it's probably 35 week of 48. It's an RCA, but it's not an RCA Victor. That's what I was talking about when I was looking at these tubes. So it's an early RCA, but it's not as crusty and old as the tubes that would have originally come with this. This one in particular I want to clean because if something's awry, you can get some blue, purple glowing inside this, or it could red plate. So we definitely want to keep an eye on this tube. We're slowly bringing this set back to life. Alright. Get back in. So, I'm a mix of excited about working on a set that's all original, and I like this chassis and all that. However, I also know how much work it is. There's a lot of caps, there's a lot of electrolytics. It's complicated wiring, and it's cloth wiring, and it's old, and it's crusty. Okay, so, before we even bother, I'm going to pop this open, and let's check these resistors for continuity. Because if they're open, power supply is not going to, power's not going to be flowing through the set. The caps aren't even going to reform properly because some of them won't be getting any juice. for sure it's not going to be doing anything. But yeah, so we have 1, 2, 3 resistors inside this can dome, and we've got 2 here that are independent. They are not connected in the middle. I suspect one or all of these are going to be open. 2 reasons they go open. 1, caps are excessively leaky or shorted, the electrolytics I mean, and they will take out the power resistor. Or 2, corrosion, or combination of the 2. Alright, so let's check out this guy. That looks good. 1.3K. 230. I'm going to consult the service info. Just happen to have a nice copy of the original Red Book service info. Covers this set and the 648 PTK projection set. Alright, so here we go. Here's the power supply. So, one should be 1.36K. That's the one I just checked. Seemed to be good. So the other should be 230. Darn near exactly what we got. And the others should be 6.8K, 93 ohms, and 56 ohms, but it's in parallel with the ion trap, so it should be like 20 something ohms. So far that looks good. Should be like 6.7, 6.8, something. This is looking good too. Settling in. 5.5K or so, 5K. Okay. Check this guy. Should be 93 ohms or something. Or no, this is the even lower one. What did I say? 20 something. It's 12. Okay, it's certainly not open. This guy. Yeah. We're looking good. And we're on our way. 2 5U4 is installed. 5 AXP bench CRT installed. Slowly ramp up the voltage. I'll monitor the current and see what happens. Well, things have been going great, and I've gotten to the point where I think the horizontal oscillator's kicking in. I've been checking the voltages on the bleeder network, and actually they're kind of in the ballpark of where they should be. But then a problem cropped up, which I think you'll see in a moment here. Yes, our old friend, the high voltage rectifier tube, has gone gassy and needs to get replaced. Alright, let's give this crusty used one a try, shall we? I think I might have news on on my quest for a whole bunch of new old stock 1B3s, but nothing is solidified yet, so I'm not going to say anything. We have a glow on the face of the CRT. Oh yeah, things are oscillating. Fantastic. Check that out. Alright, now we're way out of 100 volts, so I'm going to keep going a little bit higher. I want to get to 115 or so, and then we'll spin her around, try feeding it a signal, see if we can get any sound or video. You get a crack up. Right. We're getting a nice hum out of the speaker and some crackling. How about that? And that's why you don't walk away from a set when it's powered up. Something smoked. That's alright. I assume it's a paper cap that went up. Let's find out. I only walked away for about 30 seconds at the worst possible time. This is still incredibly hot. It's been about 10 minutes. I'm sure it was getting hot all the while, and it just happened to vent when I stepped away for a moment. So what are we going to do? Well, a few things. One, we're going to get this out of here. And the others are all cool, so I think we bypass this and continue on. And we'll examine that a bit and a bit later. But for now, let's keep going with getting this set up and running. Won't win any awards, but it'll get the job done. This is why you never want to tack new caps across old caps, because they can short out and it's still warm. So I clipped off all the connections going to this. Now this is on a phenolic base because the negative does not go to ground, so I have the negative leads on these three tacked in replacements going to one of the negative lugs on this can, and the positives are all going to the original wiring. Definitely not secure enough to be a permanent replacement, but for now they're solid enough. We can keep going. So I'm going to put this back down and resume. Okay, back in business, and I'm feeding a signal in. It's got to be an FM radio station I'm picking up because I'm not feeding in any sound. That means the tuner's doing something. I am fitting a video signal in channel 4. So the signal went all the way. Obviously, we don't have full deflection. Alright, I have the contrast gain on this turned up all the way. I have my signal generator turned up all the way, and I can't pick up any sound or video, but I am picking up some radio stations a little bit, so definitely something's not right. So I think that's as far as we're going to get tonight, but aside from a little drama with the venting electrolytic, that is one heck of a great first power-up. And I expect to only get better from here. So I'm going to start going through and replacing caps and test all the tubes. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.